Welcome to Have You Read It? The channel where we bring books to life, one summary at a time. Today we're exploring Press Reset, Ruin and Recovery in the Video Game Industry by Jason Schreier. A deep exploration into the unstable world of video game development, focusing not just on the games themselves, but on the human beings behind them, their struggles and their resilience in the face of studio closures and mass layoffs. The introduction sets the stage, highlighting the video game industry's monumental success, generating $180 billion in global revenue by 2021 and its significant cultural impact. However, this success masks a darker side, the instability and volatility within the industry, marked by frequent layoffs and studio closures, which have become as fundamental as any iconic game element. The book emphasizes that while the industry excels at creating art and generating billions, it often fails to provide stable employment for its workers. Jason Schreier frames the book around a central question: why is it so hard to maintain job security in the video game industry? This leads to a deeper exploration of the human cost of this instability, examining what happens to individuals, writers, artists, designers, programmers, and others when studios shut down. It's a book about what happens to humans when video game studios shut down, focusing on their lives, how they are affected, and how they move on. The book isn't just about the heartbreak and tragedy. It's also about recovery and resilience, about how individuals navigate these challenges, whether by pursuing creative independence, moving to new studios, or leaving the industry altogether. The first chapter, The Journeyman, introduces Warren Spector as a central figure, a veteran game developer with a long and storied career marked by both creative triumphs and professional setbacks. Spector, known for his work on Deus Ex and his philosophy of player choice and agency, embodies the creative tension within the industry. In 2005, Warren Spector pitches game ideas to Disney executives but finds them distracted. This sets in motion the unlikely partnership between Spector and Disney, leading to the development of Epic Mickey. Spector's background is then detailed. He started in tabletop role-playing games and later joined Origin Systems, where he worked on Ultima and Wing Commander. He collaborated with Looking Glass Studios on Ultima Underworld and System Shock, pioneering the immersive sim genre. Origin was eventually acquired by Electronic Arts, leading to creative conflicts and Spector's departure. He then founded Iron Storm Austin, where he directed Deus Ex, a critically acclaimed game that blended sci-fi shooting with RPG elements. After leaving Iron Storm, Spector started Junction Point Studios, facing funding challenges and ultimately leading to a deal with Disney to create Epic Mickey. Disney's acquisition of Junction Point led to stability but also creative constraints. Graham Hopper, a Disney executive, championed the Epic Mickey project, recognizing the potential of Mickey Mouse in video games and acquiring the rights to Oswald the Lucky Rabbit to incorporate him into the game. Chase Jones, a game designer with a nomadic career, joined Junction Point to work on Epic Mickey, highlighting the industry's contractual nature and job instability. As Epic Mickey 2 was rushed into development, Spector's interest waned and tensions with Disney executives increased. The game's failure led to the closure of Junction Point in 2013, leaving Spector disillusioned. Spector found a new role teaching at the University of Texas, but eventually returned to game development, joining Paul Neurath at Otherside Games to work on System Shock 3. However, funding issues arose again, leading to layoffs and Spector's continued struggle for stability. The story of Warren Spector illustrates the cyclical nature of the video game industry, with creative vision often clashing with financial realities, leading to volatility and job insecurity. Chapter 2, Project Icarus, shifts the focus to irrational games, the studio behind BioShock, and the challenges of following up such a critically acclaimed title. It emphasizes the artistic recognition BioShock received and the pressure to replicate its success. After the success of BioShock, 2K Games wanted a sequel, but Irrational initially declined. 2K Marin, formed by ex-Irrational employees, took on BioShock 2. While Irrational began working on a new project, Project Icarus, which would become BioShock Infinite. Chad Leclerc, a level artist, joins Irrational and experiences the studio's collaborative environment before the shift to BioShock Infinite. The development of BioShock Infinite was marked by constant changes and reboots, driven by Ken Levine's perfectionism and creative process. Forrest Dowling, a level designer, joins Irrational as BioShock Infinite's core ideas are established, providing a sense of stability. However, the game's development continued to be turbulent, with frequent cuts and shifts leading to stress and uncertainty. In 2010, BioShock Infinite was officially unveiled, setting the stage for the game's final stages of development. To increase replayability, a multiplayer mode was planned but later scrapped to focus on the single-player campaign. To get BioShock Infinite finished, Don Roy was hired as a veteran game producer. Then Rod Ferguson, known as a closer, was brought in from Epic Games to help make the tough decisions and complete the game, and that seemed to work. It was then released in March 2013. BioShock Infinite received critical acclaim and sold well, but some felt the studio's culture had changed with its growth. Levine wanted to work with a smaller team on more experimental projects, leading to the decision to shut down Irrational and start a new venture. Irrational's employees were given the news the studio was closing. A blog post was written on the company's website. After they'd gotten their news, human resources came up and started walking everyone through the logistics. A lot of Irrational employees were devastated. Those who weren't invited to join the new studio felt like they'd been left out of the group. It was up to the select developers to decide how they wanted to go forward with their lives. With time came some new plans for Irrational. Many felt the need for change and started to look at it as they were packing up and leaving. There were many who would never truly feel the same again. Chapter 3, Rafting Upstream, introduces Gwen Frey, who faces her first studio shutdown early in her career at Slipgate Ironworks. She then found new jobs, and then she moved on. Frey later joined Irrational Games, only to experience another studio closure with the end of BioShock Infinite. Tired of the industry's instability, she decided to pursue independent game development. In 2014, Frey joined the Molasses Flood, founded by ex-Irrational developers Forrest Dowling and Scott Sinclair. The team launched a Kickstarter for their first game, The Flame in the Flood, raising over $250,000. Despite the Kickstarter's success, The Flame in the Flood didn't sell well, leading to financial challenges for the Molasses Flood. The studio took on contract work and explored new projects, eventually finding funding for Drake Hollow. Frey, however, felt drawn to her own project, Kinney, and decided to leave the Molasses Flood to pursue independent development. Frey then joined and discussed more plans to launch and take control of her new game. This section emphasizes the draw of independent game development as a response to industry instability, highlighting the challenges and rewards of striking out on one's own. It also demonstrates the difficult trade-offs between stability and creative freedom. Chapter 4, The Case of the Missing Studio, explores the unusual story of 2K Marin, a studio that seemingly disappeared without official acknowledgement. When layoffs began, there was much confusion. As time went on, more and more people were laid off. The studio was formed to create BioShock 2 as a way to release more video games. Some said that their initial release wasn't great, and they still had much room to improve upon. The video game release sold enough for a small profit, and the company decided to move forward. After being unable to live up to the expectations in the video game world, many were laid off. The few who remained had an important task ahead of them. They needed to come up with a new plan if they wanted to stay relevant in the video game business. After struggling to find a project and facing internal conflicts, 2K Marin was tasked with supporting the development of an XCOM shooter led by 2K Australia. The 2K Australia studio was then integrated into 2K Marin, causing more conflicts. The XCOM project was ultimately taken over by 2K Marin, leading to the departure of key staff in Australia. The XCOM shooter released to middling reviews, further destabilizing the studio. 2K then brought in Rod Ferguson to start a new studio, Hangar 13, in the same location. 2K Marin staff were divided between the two studios, and it was eventually closed without any official statement, creating a sense of betrayal and erasure for those who worked there. Even the CEO of the company didn't know of the closure. He would mention different things about the studio as if it was still in operations. Because of miscommunication, it seemed the video game world had to pick up the slack. Former 2K Marin developers found success in independent game development, creating titles like Gone Home, demonstrating the talent that was lost in the studio's closure. This part illustrates the power of indie games as a potential outlet for so many video game creators. Chapter 5: Workaholics shifts the focus to the personal cost of the video game industry's demanding work culture, with a focus on Zach Mumbach's experiences at Electronic Arts. Zach was initially a QA tester who worked long hours. His work ethic was almost unmatched. Mumbach rose through the ranks to become a producer, working on titles like The Simpsons game, and it was all due to his excellent work ethic. He then had a change in his workload and began to produce other popular games. But the most recognizable game might have been Dead Space. As he continued to work, Mumbach realized that something was wrong. He was working insane hours and didn't have the chance to ever slow down. He didn't know how to handle his work-life balance anymore. During the development of Dead Space 3, co-op and action elements were added to broaden the game's appeal, while Visceral faced financial pressures from EA. The story was that more action could lead to more sales. This theory did not pan out in the end. After the studio shut down, people started to come up with plans to help their fellow employees. Those who had already lined up new gigs gave a helping hand where they could. But it was difficult to help everybody. Mumbach then joined Crystal Dynamics, but struggled with the work-life balance. He reflected on the disparities between executive compensation and developer treatment, leading him to leave AA development. He then was asked to join as a part-time employee for the Molasses Flood. They didn't have enough money to pay him, but he had to find work somewhere. But it was obvious it couldn't work out in the long run. There were several things that happened to Mumbach as he journeyed through the video game industry and had a hard time leaving. He wasn't happy with where his career had gone and realized he had to make a change. After joining the Molasses Flood, Mumbach felt as if he had done everything wrong. The video game market that he used to know was changing and he couldn't keep up. It was a big identity change for Mumbach. This section is to show the importance of mental stability. Mumbach's hard work might not have gotten him exactly where he wanted to be, but it gave him the peace of mind to leave the video game industry if necessary. This highlights the need for better work culture and mental well-being. Chapter 6: Bloody Socks dives deeper into the 38 Studios saga, focusing on the meteoric rise and catastrophic fall of Curt Schilling's ambitious video game company. We also see how the company was brought down as a result of the company's success. 38 Studios promised high pay, great perks, and a celebrity founder. With all of that, it seemed like an easy decision to want to join the company. This led to some people switching careers entirely. However, 38 was bleeding millions of dollars a month, while executives started spending the cash. 38 Studios was also trying to acquire other companies, which took up more money than previously thought. Schilling pitched his game in Rhode Island and talked about how excited he was to change everything. This caused a lot of pressure and stress to the employees, which were all fueled by bad advice. The state of Rhode Island gave the company a $75 million loan, while politicians promised more job growth. This created some great excitement for Rhode Island. But everything came crashing down when 38 started missing payments. The state began to audit everything and found financial misdoings and other issues. Things just kept getting worse. Many of the workers at 38 Studios could not believe what they were hearing. Then, in May of 2012, 38 studios went into a state of emergency. Nobody would get paid. Even more information started getting released to the public. Things were going to get tougher. People were packing their things up from their desks. By the end, all that happened was that the project went down and a whole bunch of people were out of work. Everyone just wanted to go home, so it was good to have that option available. After closing, there were different theories as to who was at fault. At that moment, people understood the full meaning of trust, and also the dangers of false trust. It had a lot to do with a great man's ego. Chapter 7: Human Costs. Human Solutions get started in the year 2000. Joe Falstick entered the workforce as a video game employee. Later, he would reflect on the challenges of the video game industry. After the company shut down, Falstick said he would never work in the video game industry ever again. It just didn't seem worth it. It was also difficult seeing many of his friends get laid off. Seeing his friends get laid off was the turning point for Falstick. Then he found himself an unlikely opportunity. It was a job at Crystal Dynamics. He wound up running into an old work friend. They used to work a game developer, but they found it wasn't for them, and they moved on to something new. There were only few indicators that 38 was being transparent with its message. When the dust settled, this led to a question: what if it was a simulation all along? Chapter 8: Gungeon Keeper talks of Dave Crooks and his many problems. One of the biggest problems that he would end up facing in the video game industry was layoffs. But the story wasn't over for him just yet. As they continued to work, he reached out to one of his old work buddies. What was so special about it was that this person had just quit 38 and could help him find some work. But what was this new project all about? They soon released a new version of the game on the Nintendo Switch to some critical success. What a change of events that was! It had made their careers worthwhile and they were on to new endeavors. While working on the Nintendo Switch, the group said they thought what Warren Spector did was wrong. They had many heated discussions and would scream at the top of their lungs while everyone else was trying to do their work. Warren Spector's journey was emblematic of all the volatility that video game developers had to face. This has had an outsized impact on both the video game industry and also Warren Spector himself. Chapter 9: Human Costs. Human Solutions starts. It explores potential solutions. One of the best and most used methods would be video game industry unionization. The problems with unionization are that they could be used in a lot of different forms. What was helpful to one may be damaging to the other. So it is not that easy. Disbelief's staff is also great due to the fact the video game is able to be made even on a low-end budget. The video game can also be outsourced so people won't have to move anywhere they don't have to. What if I told you there was another model that could be the best of both worlds? This book has taken a lot of twists and turns, and this might be the most bizarre thing you will learn today. The book has come to an end, and the video game workers might have made a new game this year. This just shows that the best has yet to come, which is more than one can ask for. Key takeaways and heuristics. The human cost of game development. The video game industry's success often comes at the expense of its workers, who face instability, long hours, and creative constraints. The boom and bust cycle. The industry is prone to cycles of rapid growth followed by layoffs and studio closures, driven by financial pressures and shifting market trends. Creative versus financial tension. The inherent conflict between creative vision and financial goals often leads to compromises and difficult decisions that impact developers. The illusion of stability. Despite the appearance of full-time employment, many game development jobs are inherently unstable, leaving workers in a constant state of anxiety. The allure and pitfalls of independence. While independent game development offers creative freedom, it also comes with financial risks and the challenges of running a business. The need for systemic change. The video game industry needs fundamental changes to address its instability, including greater worker protections, alternative business models, and a shift in priorities from short-term profits to long-term sustainability. Heuristics to remember: balance passion and pragmatism. Pursue creative goals, but be realistic about financial constraints and market demands. Prioritize people over projects. Value and support your team, recognizing that their well-being is essential for creating great games. Seek stability and flexibility. Find ways to balance job security with the freedom to explore new opportunities and creative outlets. Advocate for change. Support initiatives that promote better working conditions, fair pay, and greater worker protections in the video game industry. Thanks for watching. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button so you never miss our next book dive.